kicked off here in just a minute here. So, first presentation from the Atlanta Airlines Terminal Corporation and their partnership with Energy One. So, on the presentation, you got myself and CEO of Energy One, Mike Elmers. Quick bio on us. We both worked for General Mills for quite some time, created the energy program at General Mills, took one plant's energy budget from about $14 million to $8.5 million, then took all those learnings, spread it across all the General Mills, and eventually across all international. Ended up being $25 million in savings to the company, about a 20% reduction overall. And then a couple years ago, created Energy One to work with large facilities on bringing that same tenacity to reducing energy costs, with a focus on low and no cost solutions. So our other presenter here that's going to be with us is Steve Masico, and we have the fortune of working with him at the airport, Atlanta Airlines Terminal Corporation, and he's been a great leader. And in his role as the Vice President of Business Administration, he's been a big supporter for energy initiatives, funding energy initiatives, getting support of the organization has been a real key to the success that the airport has had in energy reduction. So real excited that he was, able to join us today. So, he provides leadership and direction regarding the business activities that support the corporate requirements of the AATC organization at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Steve's from New York. He moved to Atlanta in 1974. He went to Georgia Tech, go Jackets, and he's also got a certificate in engineering psychology during that time. He was with York International for a while, working on large-scale HVAC. And then he took an industrial engineering position at Delta, and he had a 20-year career with Delta, working on a lot of productivity initiatives, moved into technical operations, went into plant layout, case shop design implementation, and then he was in finance, material management, supply chain, really kind of got a good overview of their business. Did a quick stint with AAR doing director of sales, working with airlines and maintenance partners there. So he's got a lot of experience in the airline industry. And then recently, here in 2015, joined AATC for the role that we discussed here. So with that, my pleasure to welcome Steve.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? First session, so appreciate everybody being here. Graham, appreciate the introduction. As he's reading through all that, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm getting old, but that's a whole nother issue. I wanted to start off, and you may be sitting out there saying, well, who is this guy standing up here? Industrial engineer. If you went to the kickoff yesterday, you heard some comments about industrial engineers. And our role, some people have said we just couldn't be mechanical or electrical engineers, so we became industrial engineers. I like to look at it from a standpoint, we've got 90% technical and about 10% art. We throw that art piece of things in, and you're going to hear some of that today. But then also from a standpoint of, I'm not your energy guy. I'm not your technical expert. The relationship that we have built at AATC with Graham and with Mike, really speaks to how do you make this work? How are you successful in what you need to do? So I wanted to start off and ask a question. How many finance people do we have in here? Okay, thank you. One. That was not a plant. One. How many procurement people? That's great, 0. And then how many engineers? See, and that's so. You again. You wonder, why am I sitting here? What does that look like for us? And how do I know that I have picked the best session to come to? Well, let me tell you, you have, because this is going to be that connection point in how do you do what you do? How do you make it right? How do you be successful back in your own companies and your own firms with what you do day in and day out around this thing we call energy? The importance around this is the what and the how. I'm going to talk a little bit about the who, and I'm not going to get into the technical aspects. Graham will come up and talk about the technical aspects and the success that we've had, but I'm going to talk about the who. Who do you have to go persuade to basically be successful in what you want to do? You want to recommend something, My one finance person, thank you. We tend to have the answer of no an awful lot. We like to start with no and work our way backwards from there. So you want to do something, the answer is no. So that's what that's what I want to bring together. That's what I want you to take from my time that I'm standing up here. As we look at who AATC is, if you didn't have a chance to hear Kofi Smith yesterday, AATC, we are Atlanta Airlines Terminal Corporation. We manage the airport. City owns the airport. We manage the airport. We're set up basically 91 people. When we say we manage the airport, when you go through there, we manage custodial contracts, janitorial contracts, life safety, elevators, escalators. Those are things we do to keep the airport running day in and day out. About $150 million worth of spend, about 91 people. As was mentioned yesterday, the 43 major contracts. And again, we're sitting in an environment, 1979, the airport was growing out, so we're 38 plus years old. And have really, I got a lot of things I can say because that's how we always did it, because that's apparently how we always did it. And we're trying to change that. And again, how you see in this relationship. I did want to mention as we move through this, listen, now I'm just zooming in. See? I broke it already. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Weather. Yeah.
I'm not going to get charged for that, am I? Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Again, you heard a little bit about this yesterday. Putting this in perspective, 7.2 million square feet, 100 million passengers a year. So if you wanted to, I don't know if any of you got caught last night. There was a little soccer game that was across the street at the Mercedes-Benz. So if you were trying to leave, you probably got caught on some of those people trying to get here. 40,000 people, Mercedes-Benz holds 70,000 people, 100 million passengers a day. We put 260,000 people a day through the airport. So that's 3 times what Mercedes-Benz holds. A lot of people going through. What we've got to look at is all these things are great, but what does it mean? It comes down to customer experience. Depending upon who you talk to, an airport exists because the planes need a place to land. Now, if you turn that around, the airport exists because the planes that are landing are bringing people into the airport. So it just depends which side you look at. But it's a matter of the importance of the airport goes without being said. How do we then create a customer experience? First thing we care about at the airport is safety. It's got to be a safe environment. We've got to be able to bring people through. We've got to maintain that safety and security around what goes on. Second piece of that customer experience is comfort. Is how do you make sure that when people are in there, that they're not mad. Let me rephrase that. They're not mad because of what may have happened at the facility. They may be mad because of other things, but they're not mad because of the facility. It's comfortable. Restrooms are clean. They can move very easily through there. They get questions asked if they have questions. So that's what we look at day in and day out. As we build into this, we had to go through, and you can see up here, we spend a lot on what we call utilities. And you see 280 million kilowatts of electricity, 325 million gallons of water a year, the steam. All of that, again, is there for one reason. It's to have people come to the facility and then to go back out. Nobody lives there. I had to think about that one. I don't think anybody lives there. Depends what movies you've seen. But nobody lives at the airport. So people are either coming in, they're either passing through, or they're coming from Atlanta to get in the airport and go forward. This is where the conversation started, back between AATC and with our partners at Energy One. We said to ourselves, we have this spend. The relationship we have is we do not generate revenue as AATC. So some of what was not brought up yesterday is our relationship with our board members. Our board basically funds what we do. We're the only airline in the domestic U.S. that is managed that way. It is not run by the municipality, owned by the city, not run by the city. So we have a responsibility, we have a fiscal responsibility back to our board to do things that are right. And our biggest spend category, of course, is going to be around utilities. It's going to be around electricity. It's going to be around our water bills. It's going to be around all those items that come into play. So as you look back and you look at the organization of 91 people managing this and say to yourself, how do you do that? How do you take a budget? We have a budget. We meet with our board every 2 months. I don't recommend it for everybody. It's not a lot of fun meeting with your board every 2 months, but that's what they wanted to do, so that's what we do. So we update them every 2 months. We're running a new actual to plan spend categories. We're going through everything, all the money that has been spent through those 2 months. And you say, well, how do you do that? How do you manage that appropriately with a organization that has experience? And in our asset group, we have 4 people. Finance group has 4 people, asset group has 4 people. And our asset team is really responsible for our utilities. They're responsible for the plants. They're responsible for everything that goes on that causes impact to those areas. But you then look for that experience level, and that's what we were lacking. The experience to be able to not only go in and impact those areas, but the experience to be able to go in and explain what's going on. I was joking earlier that you go into this board meeting, and I've been at AATC about 3 years. 3 years ago, I'd go into this board meeting and there'd be these fluctuations on utility. Again, our biggest spend category, and they'd move all over the place. And to be honest with you, I had no idea why they were fluctuating half the time. I mean, it was something that you had to go through. Was it the hot weather? Was it the cold weather? Was it that there was a convention, they were flushing toilets more, there was more water use? I don't know, was there a leak? But we were always chasing our tails as to what does that mean? Again, we build this relationship, we go out, excuse me, and we work with, working with Graham and Mike, are now able to go through and say, we know why. They bring a level of experience and expertise, and it's not just saying them, they're our partner. All of you have this experience and this expertise to be able to go in and explain stuff that says, this is why. Regression models, this is why. Average temperatures, these are the reasons that this is going on. Then we can turn and, again, do something with it. So all of this up here, again, comes down to one thing, is how do we maintain, again, customer experience, but then be fiscally responsible to our board and make sure that works. One mention I'll put up here, again, Georgia Power customer, top 25. We do use quite a bit of power in our facility. Very interesting setup as the terrible goings on with all the hurricanes and everything and power being out. We really don't have an opportunity to have power go out. We've got multiple, of course, backup systems to keep the power on. Things get a little hectic if you can't control the people around the planes. But as we go through this, we also, and you heard yesterday, are the #1 rebate receiver. That's a term I'm going to use. Rebate receiver for 2017. And that says an awful lot of the trust we have put in and the respect we have for the partners that we have up here. Looking at what this says is the impact of the energy program, and it came up yesterday, 2.1 million saved to date, 2.5 million ongoing savings. As we look at this, building that trust, and again, that key link between what you do, your experience, you know what's going to work. How do you bring that to an organization? How do you make that successful? My controller goes over every savings that comes through. You're not going to hear a lot about cost avoidance. I'm not a big cost avoidance fan. Again, I'm a finance guy, and I don't necessarily even know what that means. But what it means is you make up a big number, and then you work your way down to something that I agree to, which I won't. So my controller looks at every number before it gets put on a piece of paper. And that's important. That's where that trust component comes in. And I'll tell you what, that wasn't easy. Because again, as a finance guy, a lot of pressure. I push back a lot. I want to see things. I want to feel things. I want to know going into something that I have that opportunity to be successful. And it depends where your risk tolerance is as to how far you want to push that. But there's patience. You've got to be patient. You've got to know your audience. You've got to know who you're working with. It took them time. It wasn't the first meeting. It wasn't the second meeting. It probably wasn't the 5th meeting that we started building that confidence, that I started building that confidence that, okay, I see where this is going. I understand it. Again, I'm not a technical expert, but I do understand now how does this work and how does it come together and how does that propagate through. Another piece as we look at on here, the importance again of the budget. Where we see our value, because we are not a revenue generating organization, is through the budget. So if the budget's $100 million and our utilities are 10 million of that, I need to be able to show our board how does that play out, how does that come through. But what we had before was we had these really large upper and lower limits. These things were bouncing all over the place. So being able to use these models, and again, working with our partners, we've been able to compress those and understand as we look forward, we just finished our budget. We run a strange year. We run an October 1 through September 30th fiscal year. We are coming into the end of our current year, and we'll start our new year, but we put our budget together, and being able to go in there with confidence and explain to them, this is what's going on, this is what we're doing, and you're going to hear about a lot more of that as Graham goes through his, but here's what we're doing, and here's how that impacts us. And here's where that is seen in this budget. We've planned for this in the budget, and we'll experience that, which again, if it's coming as it is from somebody else's pocket, they get to experience that, quote unquote, if you want to call it savings. The way that we move forward and the things that we do as we move forward with Graham and Mike, there's so much more to do out there. We can't rush through everything. And it talks on here, it talks about this no capital. And it either tells you I wasn't running real efficient before, or we, again, didn't necessarily have the experience in-house to be able to do this. The opportunity we have with finding savings, again, no capital, then moving into that low capital area, and at the same time, developing that customer experience. The things that came up yesterday around lighting, the lighting that was shown in a picture that looks like rainbow lighting, which it's not really rainbow, it's not art, it's the lights were deteriorating. How do you make that experience be something? But you're also dealing with 260,000 people a day, to be honest with you, who may not care. All they want to do is get from the parking lot to their plane and to their location. They may not care, but we have to care, so we have to balance that. Does that mean, like Denver, large solar panel fields? Different challenge that we have than that they have. But looking at these opportunities, and for us to be able to drive that and bring that from the relationship with Energy One, I see us in a great deal of success as we go forward. You need to be patient. You need to be firm in your stance, but again, be patient with the people you're dealing with, whether that's a finance person, whether that's a leader who doesn't necessarily understand, or whether that's a procurement person who all they care about is an ROI. Finance person also all they normally care about. But be firm and be consistent and be persistent with what you're doing, understanding that it may take a little longer than you thought, but keep driving at it, keep pushing toward it, and I hope you'll see the success that we have driven, and I look forward to the success that we're going to have in the future. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that, and I'm going to hand this back over to Graham.
Thanks a lot, Steve. All right, good deal. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. That was great. Thanks for kind of that lead in. So just really quickly, who's Energy One? You know, we work with facilities that have a large spend because we go in very deep, and our expertise is really across all mechanical systems. So, you know, kind of one partner that can cover off on really all major energy users, or are quick learners on ones that we've never heard of, like preconditioned air that goes into airplanes. We just learned what that was 2 years ago, and now we're optimizing it. So, you know, but those are the kind of things that come up. And we really focus heavily on low, no-cost solutions, really, with, you know, finance people like Steve, just the real message of kind of getting those low, no cost first, you know, very kind of scrappy ways to do things and very quick return on investments. So, you know, as we got out to the airport, it is a very overwhelming and large place, and an important piece was to figure out, well, where is all their energy going? So we did this energy mapping exercise, and, you know, and this take many, many months. I mean, they have 7,500 motors just for conveyors for baggage. And they've got, you know, concessions everywhere, and, you know, 10,000 plus VAV boxes and 400 HVAC units and stuff. So, you know, a lot of kind of work went into that, but it gave us a really good idea of where the energy is going and where we need to focus. And then we did, you know, some regression modeling, which again helped a lot with their budgeting and understanding their usage. You know, it's not as complex as a manufacturing plant, you know, with all kinds of different production. I mean, you know, weather, passengers, you get some of those inputs and, you know, do some regression based on historical results, and we were able to predict their bills before they even came, you know, just once we knew what the weather was like and you know, how many folks were in the airport. So, you know, this really gave a lot of clarity to energy usage, what's driving it, and how that performance is. And then as Steve mentioned, then we were able to really tell how we're doing on budgeting. So this is an example month where we're $20,000 under budget. You may say, great, energy program's doing awesome. But weather was $15,000 favorable. Georgia Power came in with some nice low pricing. Our usage was actually quite a bit negative. So it's kind of outside of our control. Things were very good. But what was in our control, we actually weren't that successful. And with most people just looking at the variance versus budget, only that first item just hides so much about what your actual performance is. And so once you get a lot of these tools, you can really start to figure out, when that, where you're going wrong. We actually found a really large cooling tower leak by using this. The usage did go up and on this one account, and it kind of made sense because it was getting warm, and cooling towers probably should use more energy or more water, but this spike way higher than the model would project, and we were able to hunt down that loss before it went on for too long. So we did do a lot of work on procurement, and that is obviously no capital, and we're able to get some big paybacks there. So on the electricity side, Georgia Power, great company with very low cost electricity. They have many tariffs to choose from with the intent of letting that customer optimize their pricing based on their load structure. So, we went through all the tariffs. There's a few needed some adjustments to make sure they were on the cheapest tariff. Georgia Power also offers real-time pricing for load above your base load that was set, when you first opened your site or first got on that account. And real-time pricing is significantly cheaper than the base load pricing. Real-time pricing could be 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour. The base load could be 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So, we did some, in theory, your customer base load is not supposed to change, but Georgia Power will let you adjust it as you've done energy efficiency projects. So we did a lot of modeling there, got the right customer base loads, got the airport buying more real-time power. The other call out I'll give on kind of the electricity side, I think this is where, as Steve was talking about, kind of building trust with the customer. So many proposals at the airport gets, use their blended average rate of 7 cents a kilowatt hour. It's going to save you this, and then it's going to save you 7 cents a kilowatt hour. But that doesn't happen on their bill. Any energy they save is this real-time pricing, which is 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour, and that's the actual only savings. So, we were able to make a lot of that very clear to them and be just very candid about how actual bills go down. Because what happens with energy programs is something gets quoted, and we were supposed to save X amount, but bills aren't really going down that much, and you just start to lose momentum with the program. Whereas, we really prioritize calling the shot, exactly what the bill would do. They're seeing that, and then you do build more momentum to say, yeah, if we say it's a 1.5 year payback, they're confident it's a 1.5 year payback because we're looking at what the bill's really doing. Then you're getting support for those maybe borderline return on investment requirements because there's just so much confidence that it's actually going to deliver. So that's a really important part. Obviously, using blended average makes projects look better, but not always kind of the right answer. On the gas side, we are in a deregulated market. So for people out there that just keep signing with their current gas provider, whatever their latest offer is, I'd really take a hard look at putting that out for bid every once in a while. On the water side, water costs are very expensive in Atlanta, so we just did a lot of work optimizing water usage, water credits, and on that piece. So the other thing that's been a huge win for us is our partnership with Georgia Power and ICF, who manages their rebate program. And, it's been, we're, now looking to be the top energy rebate receiver in 2017. And in previous years, ATC was receiving really almost no rebates. So, their website's on here, and actually our account rep there is in the corner here, and you're welcome to talk to anyone more about that. But if you're not taking advantage of the rebates, you absolutely should be, because it's money out there that's available as you're doing these things. And for us, it's helped drive projects that otherwise wouldn't have happened. I mean, we're now relighting all D, E, and F concourses on the boarding level because they're good return on investments, and without the rebate program, that project would have been pushed off quite a bit more. So it's been a huge win for us to get dollars and get things done. So it's a really good program. Touch on just a few other items here. So we've done some work on the central utility plants. This is a chiller efficiency curve where low is better. You want lower kilowatt per ton. Chillers become more efficient as they become more loaded and at lower cooling tower temperatures. Obviously, lower cooling tower temperatures could require more fan energy. So kind of at each weather condition, there's an optimal point for cooling tower temperature and to optimize the fan energy of the cooling tower and the chiller efficiency. So, we did a lot of work. They have two main utility plants. One's on Econ course. This is where they were operating on the curves in summer of 2016. This is where we moved them in 2017. We still have a little bit of work to go there, but we're heading in a great direction and a much better efficiency curve. On their T-Con course utility plant, we were able to get it really right where it needs to be from a potential operation standpoint. And so we really just did this by optimizing control sequences, kind of doing a retrocommissioning of sorts of all sensors and things that are manual, that are not operating as they should, automating all the secondary pumping systems. And then we've done work on boiler controls and capturing groundwater for cooling towers. So a lot has happened in the utility plant side, but the main piece was, supervisory control on chillers and cooling towers and getting those at a better efficiency point. So, very, very productive initiative. On the HVAC side, here's one of their control screens. So one of our focus was return to basic conditions. So they do have just a ridiculous amount of equipment out there. And so over the years, you can have issues come up. So we did a retrocommissioning activity of almost every point in the system. We were able to identify 1,100 defects that were affecting efficiency. It could be sensors bad, dampers not working, that kind of thing. So then, prioritized getting those issues resolved. And again, that's really more low cost, but just getting the system to operate at, its design efficiency. Then we did some work around optimizing outside air. So, using the CO2 levels to identify how many people are in the space, and therefore how much fresh air do we need for, ASHRAE 62 ventilation requirements. And then, of course, in the wintertime, economizing, to get that free cooling. The airport's actually very impressive. They turn their chillers off when it's below 60 degrees and depend fully on outside air economizing, which is, pretty world-class for a facility that size to be able to operate without chillers at that temperature. So, and then, lastly, we took a look at, the units really ran a fixed supplier temperature, supplier pressure. And so we got, some smarter controls in there where we're looking at what is each individual VAV box or each individual zone that this HVAC unit is supplying. What are they doing? And if they're all satisfied, we could really start to look to set these back. And so without affecting zone conditions at all, set back some of these supply conditions and save a lot of energy at the air handler level. And then also at night and, when it's much less populated, all these systems are designed to have 260,000 people in there, but at 3 a.m. that's not the case. So really optimizing, the system for the occupancy is where we kind of had some other big savings. So this was a project that we did and we got some rebates for. We had really good measurement verification. We had metering on every fan. We have flow and temperature of the concourses, so we're able to show exact kilowatts of all the fans before and after the project, the tonnage before and after the project, and this is for a concourse, and you can see some, some really significant energy savings there across the board, using actual live metering on the equipment. So the last kind of few things I'll mention is, some of the lighting initiatives. So I mentioned kind of D, E, and F concourse. Here's a few of the areas that we're taking and going to the LED lights. That's been very impactful and, very good and quick paybacks. And focusing, more on the retrofits than the new fixtures just to kind of, have very high ROIs. This project was mentioned a little bit at the opening yesterday, but there are all the pole lights that light where the planes park are 1,000-watt high-pressure sodium, and they're on 80-foot poles. You need light way out at the tail of the plane, so it's a challenging application, but we've got some good demos in there that are really going to brighten those areas up and save a lot of energy. So that's kind of an exciting project coming up here. And then the last one is the concourses where you guys are all used to being in the airport. Are always very updated. They always, have some of the newer lighting, but underneath where a lot of the baggage and utility areas are, there's an opportunity to get some of that lighting up to the latest standards. There's still T12s down there, high pressure sodium. So those are a couple of the big projects that are coming up that are, really going to make the airport look, the city's already doing a great modernization project in a lot of the concourses, but even this outside lighting is going to really bring the building to a really modern looking level with very white, bright light, make the building look really sharp there. So, and save a lot of energy at the same time. So with that, I think we've got time for maybe one or two questions. Yeah.